You join me today at Ibblestow Lakes in North Lincolnshire. We've come to do a little bit of tench fishing. What I'm doing is using the new grub feeders and the new camo method feeders. I'm fishing a grub feeder on one rod and a method feeder on other rod, and we're going to see which one comes out on top. So hopefully, when it settles down, it's 1-0 so far to the method feeder. We get a few more of these and see what's fishing. Right, I've just brought this rod in now for a recast, and while I'm here I'll just take you through the gear that I'm using and explain why I'm using it. Today I'm using the Maggots in 175. I would normally use the 1.5 pound, but there's a lot of weed out there now and we're fishing at a decent range, so that little bit of extra power that I've got with the 175 is perfect for the job. I've had a few tench that's weeded me up today, and that bit of extra power has just helped me pull them through that weed bed. I've coupled that up with the Zelos 4000 reel, loaded with a 10-pound barbel line. Now 10 pound might seem a little bit strong for tench fishing, but again, you're fishing at range, there's a lot of weed out here, there's a lot of bars and things like that, and the 10-pound line's really robust against snags like that, but it's really also nice and supple, so it runs along the contours of the bottom. Coming down to that, I'm using the camo method feeder on one rod and the grub feeder on the other one. These are a brilliant idea, these, for 2 or 3 reasons. One, it's a nice flat bottom, so it sits on top of weed or any silt or anything like that, but mainly because if you're never sure whether to use a ground bait method feeder or a grub feeder, I always start off the session with one on the grub feeder, one on the method feeder, because some days they want one presentation, other days they want the next. And the ideal thing about these is they're just so easy to change over. You just push that stem out, slide your line through the slot at the back, take it off. Again, if you want to change to a grub feeder, again, just put the line through the slot at the back, feed the stem through, and within seconds you've changed from a method feeder with ground bait to a grub feeder you can fill full of maggots or chalkworm or anything. There's no need to break your line down to re-tackle. And also, when we started today, there was very little wind. The wind's picked up throughout the day, so it's allowed me, changing the feeder like that, it's allowed me to change to a bigger feeder. I started off on an ounce, but then when the crosswind were blowing across, it was just drifting off the spots a little bit. So I just quickly took the stem off, put an 1.5 ounce feeder on and carried on fishing. Below the feeder, I've got a short 3-inch hook length of the 10-pound coated braid, and I've alternated different colour pop-ups, that's all. And I buried the hook bait inside the feeder because there's still a little bit of weed on bottom. Now when I fish the grub feeder, I've used the actual bait holding clip at the top there, and it acts very much the same. You can fold your bait over, clip it into the top, and it doesn't get stuck in weed like it would do on a normal maggot feeder with a tail. But it's gone a little bit quiet now on this rod, so what I've done is I put 4 or 5 spoms in of hemp, pellet and dead maggots, and it's ripped off within a couple of minutes probably, putting that bait out there. So they obviously want a little bit of food. I've also made a slight change on this rod, which I'll go through if I get this fish in. I'll tell you what it is. But at the moment, it's one each, one to the grub feeder, one to the method feeder. Yeah, they always pull well in this nice warm water. There is a bit of a bank of weed in front of me, so I've upped the hook sizes as well slightly to what I normally use, which is why I'm using these 175 Amigas rather than my usual 1.5 pound. It's just run into some weed now. If you can keep constant pressure on it, it should come through. All right, here we go. There we go. Right, this is the second fish of the day. It's the first one that's fallen to that grub feeder. I've made a slight tactical change. I was getting perched out on the maggots, so I changed to a small pop-up. Put a little bit of bait in, put 2 or 3 spoms in, just some hemp, some S pellets and some dead maggots. And this is rocked up probably seconds after spomming. So at the moment, it's one for the method feeder and one for the grub feeder. Right, I've just got another one now on that little pop-up, fishing that grub feeder. You can see I've still got my finger store on because I was just spodding out. Again, I put 3 spoms in and it's gone straight away. So I think these fish are coming in, probably clearing me out a bait, and I probably just need to feed a little bit more. Regular casting with grub feeder, but I think they're hungry fish today. It's perfect conditions for it, this lovely warm wind, and I think they're just on that bait as soon as you put it in. There is a big bank of weed out in front of me where I'm fishing, which is why I switched from my normal size 14 hooks. I've gone up to a size 12 grappler, just so I can put more pressure on them. There it comes now. It's actually rolled over on the line, I think. So even though I'm using small pop-ups, I'm still using maggots in feeder, so that attraction's still there from all those maggots, but it's just stopping me now from catching those small roach and perch I was catching earlier on. Seems to be singling out these tench. You can just see that grub feeder on its nose. There we go. Right, that's another one that's fallen to that grub feeder with a little pop-up on. I've had 3 fish on that spot now and only 1 on the method feeder spot, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that right hand rod onto the same spot that I'm fishing this grub feeder on, and we'll just see then if it's a difference in feeders or whether it's just a better spot that I'm fishing on. Right, the bait I've used today is really simple. I've taken advantage of the fact that tench like to feed on particles, so in my spod mix all I've got a couple of tins of the Sonobaits hemp. I've got an equal measure of the little 2mm S pellets, and to that I'm adding a couple of handfuls of dead red maggots. That's just to put out to get a few fish on. That's to get a few fish on the spot. Now over the top of that, when I'm using the grub feeder, I'm obviously using the live maggots in the grub feeder, and then on my method feeder, because it's such a hot day today, you know, summer's here now, I'm fishing quite a high fish meal mix, and that's basically, it's just a 50-50 mix of the Sonobaits krill and squid and the Thatcher's green. It gives it that lovely classic sort of tench green colour ground bait, and I'm loading that in the method feeder, burying the hook bait, and then on the grub feeder it's just a simple case of just filling it full of maggots every cast. Right, so I've dropped this method feeder on that left hand spot where I've been catching on grub feeder, put a couple of more spoms over the top, and it's gone again straight away. So it's looking like it's the spot rather than the actual feeder. I thought the method feeder might have worked because that ground bait I'm using today is full of attraction. I was just going to make sure that it was the spot rather than the fact that they actually want the maggots, but it's gone straight away, so that's obviously the spot to fish. So what I'm going to do now is I'll just concentrate both rods on that one spot, probably keep it topped up after every couple of fish or something like that, and hopefully it should keep these tench coming. Feels another decent fish actually. It's just an angry man. So that's the result of first cast with that method feeder over the same area where I'm catching on the little grub feeder, and it's gone straight away. Put 2 or 3 more spoms in, so they're obviously wanting the food, and it looks like there's a few fish on spot now, so we should be getting a few more now. Another cracking tench, perfect summer's day for it. This is coming in a bit easy. Might be one of them bream. Big old band of floating weed coming in. Might be a bream this. This is going to be good, isn't it? Going through all this weed. Oh, it's a tench. This is going to be good getting through all this big band of weed here, isn't it? It's just run into. Right, we're getting close to the end of the session now, and just want to recap what we've gone through. Started off on a maggot grub feeder on one rod, and obviously method feeder on the other. Caught straight away on the grub feeder, but what was noticeable was I was getting pestered a little bit by a few silverfish and some perch. So I kept the grub feeder on, thinking that the tench will want the maggots, but I changed to a short hook length and a pop-up, which again, you know, stopped getting the small fish and caught tench straight away. The action on the method feeder that I fished on a different line was slightly slower, so I brought that one in, fished it on the same spot as a grub feeder, and it quickly became apparent that they wanted ground bait on the day. I think that's probably more down due to the presentation you can give, where you can actually bury the hook bait inside the feeder and the eye fish meal content of the ground bait. Because when I switched my method feeder rod onto the same spot as a grub feeder rod, more fish came to the method feeder. So all I've done then is I swapped them both to method feeders straight away, and it's a really simple thing to do because of how easy those feeders are to change. And it's something that I always do. I always start on 2 different presentations, and then you can work out the best one, and ultimately then you can put them both on the same bait, the same method, and it just improves your catch rate. The wind's got up as well, so I started off on an ounce feeder, but I've had to change to an 1.5 ounces because the ounce feeder got caught in the crosswind and I couldn't quite hit the spots properly. Fishing about 15, 16 wraps out, so that larger feeder just helped me punch it out into that wind, kept a tight line once it hit the clip so I could sink the line easy. What else I did notice as well is I started off just with feeders on their own, and I didn't get bites straight away, so I put 2 or 3 spoms in, and almost instantly when I put some spoms in I got a fish straight away, and it seems to be the pattern for the day today. I'd put 2 or 3 spoms in, get a couple of fish, 2 or 3 more spoms, get a couple of fish, still feeding those hemp pellets and dead maggots, but the fish really seem to come to that regular spomming. And also because you're getting bites regularly as well, I've been regularly recasting the method feeder, recasting the grub feeder to keep the swim topped up all the time. But every time it slowed down, 2 or 3 spoms full of bait, and it's just come back alive again. All right, mate. Right, well, this is the last fish of the session. To be honest with you, I moved that ground bait feeder over to the same spot as the maggot feeder, and it's probably done more bites, but I think that's more about the presentation, to be honest with you. There's still a little bit of low-lying weed, and the ability to be able to bury that hook bait in the feeder has brought more bites. So, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.